Hey everybody, it's GobletX, and welcome back to the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Arena Open. By getting a 7-win run during the Arena Open Day 1 sealed event and winning at least 3 of the 4 rounds during the first draft of Day 2, we have qualified for the Arena Open Day 2, Draft Number 2, one of the highest stakes draft events on Arena, where we're competing to win up to $2,000 in cash prizes. Unfortunately, because we did lose one round during the first draft, all it takes is a single round loss to be out of this event. But if we can rally and win a few rounds in a row, we could be leaving this event with huge cash prizes. Without further ado, let's hop into the draft and see where the cards take us today. Alright, and here we are for our Pack 1 Pick 1. We have one of the set's mythic uncommons. The Zoetic Glyph is one of the best uncommons in the format. It's really easy to have an artifact on the board by the time you're casting this, where this is essentially a 3-mana 5/4 haste that discovers a card when it dies, which is insane value. Super powerful card, easily the best card in the pack, and this is a good pack outside of the glyph. There's an Abrade for great efficient removal, Everflowing Well for solid card draw for Descend archetypes. It's a really solid pack, but it's gotta be that Zoetic Glyph to start things off. Pack 1, Pick 2, and we've definitely got a sense of direction here because we can slam dunk a second Zoetic Glyph, and now we want to take cheap little artifacts very highly, cards like Cogwork Wrestler and Inverted Iceberg. Sadly, these are really premium commons, and I don't think either of these cards will come back, but if we're lucky enough and blue's a little open in the draft pod, we might be able to get a Brackish Blunder, which will be a nice little bounce spell that might leave us with a map token to throw a glyph onto, so double up the glyphs here, although there's another premium uncommon with the Ruin Lurker Bat. These cheap evasive threats have played really well in the format too, but starting with one glyph, let's grab another. For Pack 1, Pick 3, we've got the Great Mistake towards Blue-Black Descend, pretty reasonable card for that kind of deck. We also have Saheeli's Lattice, which is definitely at its best in red-green dinosaurs, but it is a potential kind of mediocre draw spell that leaves an artifact behind that we can put our Zoetic Glyph onto. So a turn 2 Lattice into turn 3 Zoetic Glyph could play fine in the blue-red archetype, and I do think it is one of the strongest archetypes in the format. I don't think blue-green is going to be a great place for double Zoetic Glyph, because green does not have a great amount of artifact production or artifact permanence, period, so I don't think we take Brontodon. I think the real pick here is going to be between pushing onto black with the Great Mistake or pushing towards red with Lattice, and I think red is just a better color to pair with double Glyph if we're lucky enough and red is moderately open in the pod. We did pass in a Braid, Pack 1, Pick 1 to the left, so I don't expect a lot of red to come to us in Pack 2, but if we get a decent amount of red playables in Pack 1, that means we should get a few more in Pack 3 to wrap this deck up. Here for Pick 4, there's an Eclipse towards the blue-black slow grindy deck. There are some great red aggro cards, Atali's Favor being really nice with a low curve. Like that a lot. The Dynatomaton, also a good card for a blue-red artifact deck. That one's a little more replaceable. I think I like the Favor a lot here. I mean, if I discover a glyph without an artifact on board, it's pretty bad, but if I discover a glyph when I do have an artifact on board, it's insane. I don't think Sentry or Caveworm are anything to be excited about. They're pretty dang filler over there. Yeah, Favor and Dynatomaton are real solid red cards. I suppose the Dynatomaton does work with the Lattice, which is nice. But I think Favor's just been a pretty big overperformer with that Discover when it enters the battlefield. For Pick 5 here, we can push towards white with a Deconstruction Hammer, or we could stick to red like glue with this Enterprising Scallywag. I don't think the Scallywag is a particularly exciting or powerful card, whereas the Deconstruction Hammer ends up being pretty premium in any white deck with the amount of cheap aggressive dorks, especially evasive threats. So I think Hammer is the better card by a little bit, but Scallywag sticks to a color we already have a couple pickups for. I think I still take the Deconstruction Hammer here in case we get pushed off of red. Solid green stuff here with Axtra, but again, we have to kind of ditch the double glyph if we head in that direction, which I would really rather not do. Pick 6 now. Some really mediocre stuff overall, the best card being the Armored Kincaller towards green-red dinos. Sage and Caveworm are super bad. I guess the Cave Diver at least works with map tokens and exploration, which is something. Gives us another blue card to cut a little bit more blue out of the pack. Dismantler's fine sideboard material. Crackshot is an incredibly filler aggro dork. We do some splashing around. Sunbird Standard can be okay, but I think it's probably just Cave Diver or one of these 2-mana white dorks. I'm going to take the Cave Diver here, but I'm definitely not excited about it. Pick 7. Pick 7 Brontodon's pretty late. Maybe we get pushed onto green-red awkwardly. I mean, the lattice is good in green-red. Really good in green-red if we can get in that direction. Unlucky drop is fine. Bounce out of the blue. But it is a lot of mana. I'm going to take the Brontodon here, speculate back towards green. If green stays this open, we might want to take that path. Pick 8 has very few playables, the best cards here being Echo of Dusk if you can really fill your grave, but the other 2 black cards just being bad. The Brine Fang's pretty bad. And then there's Aspirant for solid cheap filler in white. I think Aspirant is the best for the pile of cards we've taken so far. And let's see if we get anything back in pick 9. If we get a Blunder back, we'll be pretty happy. I highly doubt we're getting the Iceberg or the Cogwork Wrestler back. Those are just premium commons. That would push you into blue as a color. We get neither back. There's an Out of Air, Self-Reflection, Another Chance is okay in black. I guess the Brawler's okay in green-red. Yeah, not super excited about it. Maybe black is super open, and we can take another chance into getting the Great Mistake back here. Yeah, I mean, In the Presence is good in like green-black, but if we go green-red dinos, which is the most likely green pivot, it's not going to be very exciting, nor is the Brawler. So I'll take another chance in case we go blue-black. Okay, we got a Cogwork Wrestler here. Maybe I got my my pack numbers mixed up, and this was the pack that had a Wrestler in it, alongside an Iceberg and a Brackish Blunder. Either way, we're tremendously happy to see a Cogwork Wrestler alongside double Zoetic Glyph. That is easily the pick. And the fact that it's pick 10 is another pretty great sign, but I imagine this must be the pack that had an Iceberg and a Blunder in it, if it's going to come all the way back around. And there is the Great Mistake towards that blue-black pivot. Black looking pretty open, although we didn't see a lot of premium black spells anyway, outside of the blue-black gold card, so I don't know if that'll end up happening, but Sage of Days is really just not going to be good in anything except blue-black, so if we're taking a blue card here, we might as well take the blue-black one. And that's a pick 12 Malicious Eclipse towards blue-black, a more controlling, grindy archetype that can use the Eclipse to clear out your opponent's aggressive start. Definitely take that. Caveworm, Hit the Motherlode, and Blowgun are just not going to be very good in any of our decks anyway, so we take that black speculation here. Probably not ending up on the green train anymore, although I really feel like Out of Air is just sideboard material, same with the Spyglass. Okay, well, we're blue. We have double Glyph and a Wrestler to put the Glyph onto. We want a secondary color with some cards to put the Glyph onto. We've got some premium black cards. Oh my god, this is a hard pick. So the only really solid white spells we managed to get pack 1 were Iron Paw Aspirant and Deconstruction Hammer, so I don't think white is super open, so if we take this Smithy, I don't know how likely we are to get more white spells, but it is a really powerful card, but there are plenty of other powerful cards. We probably wheel the Malicious Eclipse, so even if I want to go blue-black, we don't take that. There are 3 cards out of blue that is the color we want to play the most, that also work incredibly well with our glyph. The Waterwind Scout, the Oaken Siren, and the Lodestone Needle are all tremendously good cards with Zoetic Glyph. They're all just solid cards up front. I think the best with the glyph is the Oaken Siren, but the Waterwind Scout is a little bit better in a vacuum. Although we already want a high artifact count, so I'm going to take the Siren here. Hopefully we can wheel one of these other blue cards, but that seems really unlikely. So maybe at the very least we can get the Eclipse back if we end up pushing into blue-black. For pack 2, pick 2, we can take a Cogwork Wrestler, which 100% makes the cut and makes our double Zoetic Glyph even better. Or we can take the potentially higher payout of the Captain's Storm if red ends up being open enough from this direction. to get some red playables alongside it. My problem with doing that here is that we did pass in a Braid as one of the best cards in our opening pack towards the left, and red didn't seem that open from the right, which means we're probably not getting a ton of great red cards in this pack or in pack 3, so I feel like the potential scooping up of the Captain Storm for potential value is just a little too risky when there's already just a great card for this deck that has double glyphs, so I'm going to take the guaranteed great play and grab the Cogwork Wrestler. A little sad we don't live the blue-red artifact dream, but I think it's the safe pick, and I'm going to go with that. Now we get another Oaken Siren, so we have double Wrestler, double Oaken Siren for 4 2-mana and less artifacts to throw the glyph onto. An excellent, excellent way to get those things going. I'm really happy with where we're sitting here, moving into pick 4. Oh my god. There's no possible way Captain Storm comes back. But I guess if we get heavy enough into blue, we don't need to play that many red spells to get Captain Storm in here. Waylaying Pirates is going to be a reasonable addition to this deck no matter what. Whereas the Captain Storm will be a great addition if we get enough blue and red playables, which is much more of an if. I mean, Captain Storm is going to be so much better than Waylaying Pirates if we can get her going. This time, I think I will do the speculation since it's a 2-drop over a 4-drop as well. Let's take this Captain Storm, I guess. Now, there are no playable blue cards. Do see some decent white with an Iron Paw Aspirants and a Cosmium Blast. For the red, Ancestor's Aid's an okay trick, but not a premium one. For black, there's an Echo, but I think if we end up playing black, we really just end up wheeling everything we want in that color. We don't actively seek out the black spells. I mean, another Aspirant with double Siren is pretty sick. Captivating Cave to maybe try to splash Captain Storm might be okay, but I'll take another Aspirant here. Pick 6. Okay, Bitter Triumph for really efficient removal out of the black. Take that over Waterlogged Hulk or Pirate Hat. I suppose the Waterlogged Hulk is another card that works with Zoetic Glyph while being a good enabler for the blue-black Descend archetype, if we just keep wheeling all the black spells. But we're also pretty low on removal. We kind of don't have any. We've got one Malicious Eclipse kind of board wipe, but if black remains this open, it should be easy enough to find that kind of stuff. I don't know here, I'll take the Bitter Triumph. We might be a weird just hyper aggro blue-black deck where we just play cheap blue artifacts, throw a glyph on them, and then just keep casting removal from then on. Yeah, pick 7 Cogwork Wrestler. We're blue-black Zoetic Glyph hybrid aggro, or hyper aggro if we end up blue-black. Let's grab the Wrestler. Okay, pick 8. Reasonable black spells and nothing else, basically. I guess Archaeologist is a fine 5-drop with so many artifacts in the deck. We do go white over black. We're 3 cards deep into both. We're 3 cards deep into any of our secondary colors. I guess actually 4 cards deep into black, looking at Bitter Triumph in there as well. Take the Screaming Phantom. We do get the Malicious Eclipse back, which is bad if it kills one of these, but when we have a glyph on the board, it's pretty good, and it's going to be good sideboard material no matter what. I guess it's competing with an Attentive Sunscribe now, though, for another artifact, and the double Aspirant to go with the Oaken Sirens is very nice. Take the Sunscribe here. It's kind of awkward. Now we have a Relic's Roar for the sideboard. That probably never comes in, but who knows. Not going to have enough caves for this Gargantuan Leech basically ever. Guess I could bury treasure my way into getting a Captain Storm on board. Highly doubt that happens. If we go blue-black, Cave Worm might not be the worst. Probably not gonna be the thing, but who knows. Okay. Gotta find a lot of playables in this final pack. And lock in our secondary color from pick 1 of pack 3. Whatever we pick is what we gotta stick to end up with enough playables. And we might have to splash a little, which is awkward. Okay, pack 3, pick one. The black spell here sucks. It's just a second another chance, which is actually fine in the archetype, but it's definitely not premium and it probably wheels. I've got 4 white cards now and only 3 red ones. If I take a red one, though, I get an Idol of the Deep King, which works great for the blue-red Captain Storm pile. If I take a white spell, I get some interaction with a Dusk Rose Reliquary, nice and cheap. It's also a Cloud Guard at 4 that is really nice, but won't wheel. Might get the Hoverstone Pilgrim back here as the best wheel, just because it's the only card weak enough to maybe come back. I'm risking it for red. I'm taking Idol. The one pick I can say is definitely not the choice there is the white spell. Or not the white spell, the black spell. Another chance, because that'll just come back anyway. Okay. Landmark is kind of medium, but it would work. In blue-white. Just no good red spell here. No good blue spell. Take the Echo or the Cave Crawler towards blue-black. We don't make it to 8 mana for Bringer of the Last Gift. And Gore Stalker is just not playable. We have more black spells than anything else. That'd be the easiest way to get a full 40-card deck here. I don't think we're that great at filling Descend, so I'll take the 2-mana 2/2 over the 3-mana 1/3 Death Toucher. Okay. Man, this direction is not working out for us. We are not getting past nothing in a blue. I guess Pirate Hat is moderately playable. So there's that. Nothing in white either. Glorify is just okay. Honestly, nothing in black either. Another chance or a Gargantuan Leech, or just not doing it. So we just take the really mediocre Pirate Hat because we know it's gonna be able to get into the deck just by being on color for our main color here. Another Atali's Favor. But if I went to red at this point, we have 13 cards, we need 10 playables. We need every single card to hit unless we throw a Frilled Cave Worm and some filler like that into this deck. I guess an Out of Air as well. Double Atali's Favor, so it's sicko mode though, and we could play double Relics Roar. We want to get really stupid, turn 1/2s into 4/3s, going full aggro. I'm going the coward's way out. We're taking River Herald Scout. It makes the cut no matter what we decide to do. 4th Cogwork Wrestler makes the cut no matter what we decide to do when we have double Glyph. Inverted Iceberg makes the cut no matter what we decide to do over a 5th Cogwork Wrestler. Another card we can put a Glyph onto, but it's also good because it's our first top-end card, being a 6-mana 6/6 in the end game, while being great value early. Maybe get this Malicious Eclipse back if we still want to do the blue-black pile. And we can do some deck swaps in between rounds since this is best of 3. If it looks like our blue-black controlling deck is going to be well-positioned in a certain matchup, we can pivot onto that. If it looks like blue-red nonsense is our only shot, if they have a bunch of bombs and we just got to outrace them, just hyper speed, we can pivot onto the blue-red. This could be a real thing here, right? We have 20 playables towards blue-red right now. Probably already have 23 towards blue-black. Although I think Join the Dead's going to be considerably better in blue-black than Daring Discovery is going to be in blue-red anyway. But it might be a thing. It might legitimately be a thing where we have 2 options. Blue-red or blue-black to pivot in and out of. We just have to play a bunch of Relics Roars, which is probably not horrific in a deck that has this many 1/2s in it. It's actually a legitimate combat trick. +3/+1 for 1 mana on a lot of our cards. Yeah, I mean, we're wheeling all the other chances, but they're just not the greatest. Put in the filler Didact Echo. I'd rather have the filler Mountain Cycler at the top end. Cave Worm, boom. Now we have a blue-red deck that has some filler. Or a blue-black deck with a little less filler, but a little less synergy. Okay. I mean, this looks legitimate. I think Whip's too slow for really anything. Yeah, pick 14 Eclipse. Okay. Feel like we start with the blue-black deck being the most reasonable the vast majority of the time. But if there's a matchup that we just straight up can't win the long game ever, then we can pivot onto this blue-red deck that just tries to draw a really good hand and cheese our opponent out of the game. You know, we've got a lot more options than blue-black, so we can craft a much more reasonable main deck here. Definitely don't have a lot of good sack fodder for the Inquisitor. Drop that immediately, but I think all the other creatures are fine. Didn't end up with a lot of exploration for this Cave Diver, so that card's pretty awkward. We got one Explore creature and no map tokens in the end. I mean, a 3-mana 2/4 is still a 3-mana 2/4. It's not like it's doing absolutely nothing, but it's probably the next cut. Don't think we want the Out of the Air counterspell. Double Fortitude. Double Another Chance is a bit much, but it does fill the grave well. Yeah, this is not going to be a Relics Roar deck anymore, though. To drop those in one of these Another Chances. Yeah. It's a very reasonable blue-black build. Probably where we end up here for the main deck. Keep our blue-red pivot in mind. Yeah, I mean, still trying to cheese out games with Wrestlers and Sirens into Zoetic Glyphs, and then we back it up with efficient removal like Bitter Triumph and Join the Dead sometimes. If we fall behind, we've got the Double Eclipse against more aggressive strategies. And we've got a late game here. Seems like a really reasonable starting build to me. With a blue-red hyper aggro pivot when we need it. Yeah, we will call it a deck here. Alright, here's a look at our final deck list for today. We are on a blue-black mid-range deck here where we have a potential really aggressive start, slamming down all of these cheap artifact creatures, or something like a Pirate Hat, and then slamming a Zoetic Glyph onto it for a bunch of early damage. If we get a start like that, potentially with a little removal to back it up like Bitter Triumph or Join the Dead, or heaven forbid an Eclipse for a one-sided board wipe if we manage to have a 5/4 out, that could be a way to steal some quick games, so really like the double glyph to start the game out, and then when we get to the late game, we've got a lot of good grinding to go around. We have a lot of nice, valuable 5 and 6 mana plays like the Great Mistake, Rampaging Spiketail, and of course the Inverted Iceberg to flip into a big threat later, and cards like Another Chance to mill a couple cards and then pick up some good creatures, maybe like a Cave Worm, and the Great Mistake later once we've got a nice big graveyard. So these are 4 mana 4/5s and so on. So really reasonable looking deck to start it off, and we have a potential pivot for certain matchups. If it seems like our opponent has a better late game than us and our only hope is to outspeed them, we can go all in on a hyper aggro build that is just trying to cheese our opponent out with an excellent opening hand. And that is a blue-red build using Captain Storm, triple Relics Roar, Saheeli's Lattice, Atali's Favor, Idol of Deep King, stuff like that, to mainly just try to open up with a Captain Storm early and get extra damage off some Relics Roars. So the reason we're starting blue-black instead of blue-red is we don't have enough playables for blue-red to be a super good deck, a super streamlined one, because in order to hit 23 non-land plays, we end up playing like Frilled Cave Worm in our blue-red deck, which is pretty bad, not very synergistic. Merfolk Cave Diver in our deck that has like no exploration. We end up with some definite filler going for the blue-red build, so when we go for the blue-red, it is a lot more coin flippy, where it can lead to insanely explosive curves that our opponent will just not be able to beat, but it can also lead to much more just unplayable hands on average, a lot of really mediocre draws available in that deck as well. This blue-black build looks a lot more consistent, so that's where we're going to start things off here as we head into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are on the play for game 1. We've got a Wrestler into a 6-drop. I don't think we can keep a 5-lander that plays one spell and then praise. Yeah, I mean, I'd keep a 5-lander sometimes when I have like 1-drop, 2-drop to get going, but we really just don't here. I think I have to take the mulligan, unfortunately, to start off our first game of Draft 2. This is also not very good, but Screaming Phantom fuels the double Cave Worm. Some awkward starts for us, but we'll keep this one, I suppose. We've got a lot more double black than double blue cards in this deck, so we'll keep double swamp. For Malicious Eclipse, join the dead style cards. Our opponent is on black as well, and they start things off with the Greedy Freebooter. We did get an excellent draw. The Oaken Siren's going to let us curve out now. 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. Blue-black mirror match. It is the arena matchmaker coming in hot yet again. I think our quadruple Cogwork Wrestler are going to be very good in this matchup. They're very, very good against little death touch creatures like the Deathcap Marionette, and they're fine against the Freebooters. The Deadweight getting milled for our opponent. Speak of the devil. The super nice thing about this Cogwork Wrestler is that we can cast it off the Oaken Siren, which is gross. Probably going to have to start playing in full control, unfortunately, so that it's not so obvious that I have a 1-mana artifact play, because that makes it so our opponent can just 100% know what I'm casting here. Opponent still goes for the attack, though, because yeah, if Arena's holding for me here and I'm not playing full control, it could only be an instant speed 1-mana artifact, which is only Cogwork Wrestler in the set. So this is why we need to probably start playing full control. I'm doing this before I declare blocks so that I don't end up blocking with the Siren and then getting the Wrestler countered by something, really ruining my day. Plus, Wrestler is my most expendable creature, so if they have some kind of combat trick, I'd much rather they use it to kill the Wrestler than either of these other two creatures. So getting the block declared with the Wrestler instead of anybody else is pretty good. So our opponent goes for the Fanatical Offering, so they get to draw 2 and get a +1/+1 counter on this Freebooter. We hit a Spike Tail so I can cycle into the land that we need for the Cave Worms, but I can't cast the Cave Worms this turn, so that's kind of awkward. But I suppose I do have to cycle into that land when we know we have 2 4-drops in this hand and it's going to be 3 lands from casting this Spike Tail. Four mana up from our opponent now. There's Screaming Phantom of their own. I think our Malicious Eclipses should be really good in this matchup too. Played a lot of cheap little dorks that'll die to them. Do hit another land here. Not great. 1 black mana from our opponents. There's no 1 black mana tricks in the set as far as I remember, so Screaming Phantom offers a trade, which I think we're fine with, because it puts 2 more permanents in our grave, most likely. Yep. There's 1 right there, and another if they block. And now our Cave Worms are 4 mana 4/5s, so let's get them going here. How much card draw do we have in this deck? Do I jam out this land? I don't think so. No, we don't actually have any just straight card draw in the deck. So the reason we'd want to jam out the land is if I draw into a draw spell that I have to spend like 3 mana to cast, and also want to cast whatever I draw, I might find myself with enough lands in hand that I would have wanted to have 2 more on board. And by not playing the land this turn, I kind of screw myself there. But the reason that I might not want to play the land is we're playing against a black deck, which can potentially use the little snail pretty heavily, the 2 mana 1/1 that makes us exile a card from our hand when they play it. Okay, so we hit a River Herald Scout here, which is actually one of the few potential draw spells that would make me want the land on board, because then potentially I can cast the Scout, hit a land, play the Cave Worm. But that would be a little bit of a greedy line anyway, because if it's not a land on board, then I just play a 2/3 instead of a 4/5 for the turn. So I'm still just going to jam out the 4/5 and pass from there. There's the Stinging Cave Crawler from our opponent for a 1/3 Death Toucher that draws them a card every time it attacks. Which is very not ideal. I'm going to start threatening Cogwork Wrestler by holding full control, which is a little awkward for the speed of the game from here on. Hit a Pirate Hat. I think that's a very reasonable card to find. right now. Making the Siren a 2/3, drawing and discarding every turn can definitely dig us into some good stuff. I think I will play a land here and just have one left to ditch. That way I have the mana to play and equip this and still have 2 mana up if I hit like a 2-drop. Could be really nice. They attack with Crawler, we block with Cave Worm. Or I can just send in. I think I want to just really make sure I kill that Cave Crawler the first time it attacks. Blue-black, what tricks could they have on the Cave Worm? They could have their own Cogwork Wrestler that makes mine a 2/5, and then I don't kill the Cave Crawler anymore. I could have Relic's Roar to make the Cave Crawler 4/3, it still trades into the Cave Worm. Gore Stalker. I think I'm actually favored in this trade. We lose a 1/2 and a 2/3 on the ground. They lose an Oaken Siren and a 2/2. Yeah, we keep the Oaken Siren because of our Pirate Hat. But this does mean if my Cave Worm trades into the Cave Crawler, we have to find a way to deal with a 6/6 or we're going to die. But I think we still just trade with this so they don't draw infinite cards. Okay. And we've got some outs, obviously. And we can do some digging for them. It's not exactly an out to the Gore Stalker, but it is a good card. We can try to outrace it now, I guess. I guess I can't cast this immediately because it's not an artifact. Yep. Guess I don't really need to threaten Cogwork Wrestler anymore. But I can just like tap into control now and then so it pauses. Maybe confuses our opponent. It's probably the better way to bluff. Just tap into the control for a second so that it holds when they cast this, but then just say like, alright, resolves. Didact Echo is going to be really nice in this matchup because it's going to be pretty grindy. Although I think our Eclipses are really great against that. Speaking of the Eclipse, don't actually think I'm casting it right now. Think I actually... I mean, I could 1-for-1 kill that Didact Echo and then draw a card, discard a card, but then I discard whatever I draw into because we're not discarding Zoetic Glyph. Yeah, I guess we might end up just discarding the Eclipse here. Might even have to trade into the Gore Stalker on blocks, but I'm hoping to outrace. Okay, cool, we get to keep the Eclipse. Uh-oh. Trick here would definitely be bad. Would in fact probably be game ending. Malcolm for the double block. It's not horrendous. We kill 2 of their cards and discover something here. If we discover removal for Gore Stalker, we're great. It's not exactly removal for Gore Stalker now, is it? Would have been really good earlier. Every other creature they've played except the Cave Crawler would die to that, but not the Gore Stalker. Nor the Iceberg. That's going to be another 6/6 they can insta-flip here. Yeah, they are just drawing a lot more of their late game than we are, sadly. That probably is game. Now, even if I find removal for one of the 6/6s, we die to the other one. I don't think our matchup is particularly bad here. I think we just drew too much little stuff and not enough big. We have some big stuff. We've got our own 6/4. We've got our own 6/6 from the Iceberg. We've got the Join the Dead, another chance to pick up a couple cards. Bitter Triumph can kill anything. I don't know that I side into the blue-red build here. But this is definitely a loss. I guess we'll be on the play, which is where the blue-red deck is the most favored. So we'll take a peek at things. The Eclipse is definitely horrendous at this point in the game. Yeah, I think our decks are pretty evenly matched. We just drew a little weaker. Yeah, if we hit like an Iceberg off the Discover, a Join the Dead, a Bitter Triumph off the Discover, I think we would be probably slightly in the lead. And then if we just hit something average, like another Chance or Echo of Dusk or something, we'd have more time. We'd have at least one more turn. Try to change things. I mean, the Out of Air is not horrible against their big late game creatures. So the fact that I have to shove it into the blue-red build might not be egregious. They have anything the Spyglass can hit? It's only the activated abilities, so not really. They've got a lot of good triggered abilities we can't stop. Yeah, no, this is not a Spyglass game. Well, let's go hyperspeed and see how it pans out for us. They probably do have a little bit better of a late game, judging by how that went. Not astronomically so, where I'm perfectly happy with the blue-black versus blue-black matchup, but being on the play for game 2 as well means I do think blue-red's probably a little better place to go for game 2. Well, that's not keepable. This is not very good, but it's likely better than a mold of 5. Rough mana to have to mull here. We keep this, we turn 2, lattice away the Cave Worm, and just start rolling in whatever we can. There's an Iceberg. Still rather lattice the Cave Worm, draw 2 instead of 1. Well, these are not our synergy pieces. And we don't have double blue either. Probably nothing to idle here. I think I'm slamming down a roar just for 4 damage. This is infinitely slower than we wanted. This is like not why we played these colors at all. Which means now we just have a weaker deck because we had to mull to 6 and then drew a slow hand. This is so awkward. It's the Mephitic Draft. Pirate Hat of their own. There's the Zoetic Glyph. That's certainly a start. If I had triple blue, I could Glyph and hold up Out of Air, which I think would be pretty sweet. Instead, I can just cast a Cave Worm or cast a Glyph. And then I'm just holding up like a Relics Roar or something. Kind of nonsense. We've only got 1 Dino in this deck, so we activate the Lattice with the Glyph. Yeah, I mean, while they're tapped out, just locking in, guaranteeing some damage here feels like the way to go. Just hate that we don't get to hold up the Out of Air while doing this at least. Because I don't think we're relics roaring. I mean, I could just to put them down to 9. Okay, and there's the Deathcap Marionettes, which trades into the Lattice unless we draw one of our 4 Cogwork Wrestlers. It's not that unreasonable. There's a whole ton of them, and they're incredible against that. But we hit a land, which is not incredible right now. We can trade here, discover 3, and flip an iceberg by exiling the Idol of the Deep King. I don't really dislike that much, because we discover off the Lattice too. Sure. I guess actually if the Lattice trades and we discover, that means we get to flip the iceberg off of the Lattice engrave and keep the Idol for a for an equipment later. Oh, come on, man. That's tilting for sure. You've got to be joking. I guess I can put that on the board, so I can put the equipment onto it and have a 3-2 out as well. Do need an artifact alongside it, because I have no artifacts in grave anymore after I flip the iceberg here. Maybe it's better in hand? I don't know. The only thing that it's better against is if they have a second Death Toucher in hand, which is possible. They've got the 1/3 Death Toucher. I mean, what am I doing with my mana next turn? I'm going to have 6 mana up. 3 to flip this, 2 for Out of Air, 1 for Relics Roar, or 4 for Cave Worm. If I play the Cave Worm, I can play Cave Worm, hold up the Roar, and the Wrestler. This is going to play out so wrong for me. Now they're not going to have a Death Toucher, but there's always that universe where we put the Wrestler on the board and then they had the 1/3 Death Toucher in hand here to block the Titan. So we've avoided that universe, at least. But now they're just going to have straight removal for Titan. I mean, I guess this also gets around them just flipping their own iceberg. Yep. There's the straight removal for the Titan. Tolly's Favor's a big one to get ahead in cards here. Thanks for being real suspicious, Auto Tapper. We love that. Auto Tapper wanted to hold up red, so now we have to reveal that we have an Out of Air in our hand to our opponent. They're just going to flip their iceberg. We can't counter that because it's a craft ability. I don't hate that. I mean, we can flip an idol because we have this iceberg engrave now, and that makes Cave Worm big enough to attack into their 6/6. Yeah, this is super fine. Actually, could even throw Trample onto the Cave Worm too, so we can discover and see if we get another threat. Oh, that removes 1 permanent from my grave. I'm a doofus. It actually stays at 4/5 stats. That's so sad, actually. Oh, yeah. Well, we should have realized that then. Maybe play Wrestler and craft the Wrestler away was the play? Shiznit. Favor and Wrestler or hold up and Out of Air. This Iceberg Titan basically has Vigilance too. Maybe we'll hit a Captain Storm and go to town? Hey there, buddy. You don't actually do anything right now. I mean, I guess you go to my graveyard if I chump block. You kind of stop an attack from our opponent. There's no point in attacking. I guess I threaten to put a permanent in my graveyard, I can be like, I actually have a way to discard a permanent right now. You just don't know it yet. I tried to full control to bluff something, but Arena's weird sometimes, so I clicked OK and it was like, alright, you're not bluffing anything. Editing Gauntlet here with some bad news, and that is that the Relic's Roar has a key line of text on it that is missing from the card that I kind of just assumed was there, because it's on there on most of these combat tricks that swaps power and toughnesses around, and that's that Relic's Roar does not say target artifact or creature you control, so we could have used it on their Iceberg Titan to make it small enough to die to the Cave Worm while trampling over. So even though we kind of punted on the craft there a little bit to make our Cave Worm a little too small to get in through the Titan, the Relic's Roar would have still given us the opportunity to clear out their 6/6 and trample over for some damage, which, as you're about to see, would very likely have changed the outcome of this game. So just some unfortunate stuff there from this being the first deck that I've ever tried to even play the Relic's Roar in. Just didn't have enough experience with the card to see that full line of text there, which leads to a pretty massive punt here. Well, if nothing else, I guess we get to make our opponent use some of their clock here. Even if they do just block. Yep, they just block. Hover my hand so it's highlighted while they do this. Alright. Yeah, you got it. I mean, I guess Relic's Roar would make them trade. I don't think I want to trade, though. If I had one more mana, I could Relic's Roar plus Wrestler. But yeah, I mean, I could have traded there, because we'd end up with 4 toughness and 6 power. But it's not a good trade. One more mana and Relic's Roar would have done it there. We could roar and play a second Wrestler. Hi. Alright. That is really good in this exact position. Just get another Wrestler on board so we have one left over. Cave Worm's big enough to attack in after this first Wrestler dies. Just gonna get this mana out of the way. And they gain a little less life here for the race by doing this as well. Now, there's a lot of lines here that have just really not worked for us. Like, if we just had the Out of Air up to counter this Grasping Shadows, that would have been pretty reasonable. The really bad line was flipping this thing. I just totally forgot that that removes a permanent from my graveyard. That was so loose. But now we've got the legit attack. Relic's Roars with the equipment make a Wrestler a 6 power creature, just something. Takes 7, they say. 6 power, still not enough to kill the Titan, but I could double Relic's Roar for the double block. That doesn't feel right. So we just let them gain another 7. Is there any way I can, like, chump and sack something to stop the life gain? There's just really not. Yeah, 7 toughness, even moving the equipment and Relic's Roaring is 6 power. This is a huge bummer, because I feel like there were multiple turns we had much better lines available. I am just not seeing them here. Finding some bad decisions to be made. Really, the craft being the massive one. But I think even maybe holding the second Wrestler, letting them gain a little more life would have played a little better. There's a lot of decisions like that. Game 1, I think we played fine. This game has been really bad, though. Losing a lot of potential here. tap the Wrestler so we can't chump here. I'm at 20, that's fine. Can't stop their life gain anyway, that's the big part that I don't like about their attacks. I don't mind so much the damage coming in. It's more the fact that they're gaining off of it. I don't know. I just don't really know here. Probably just chump with the Wrestler, let them hit us here again. And Grasping Shadows is gone. If I don't attack with Cave Worm, they just tap it to the Titan anyway. Could have hit for 8 more damage, which is still not quite lethal, but it's actually kind of enjoyably close to where there's some cards we could hit that we might be able to like lethal them out of nowhere. Well, I can Relic Roar to keep it around for 1 turn for a chump. Doesn't feel worth it. Alright. We are past all of their life gain now, so we can actually try to make a dent, but they are drawing a lot of cards to find removal. Just 1 removal spell on Cave Worm kind of wins them the game here, so I really don't feel like our shots, or our chances, our odds, whatever you want to call it, are that great. That's a really good one. It's a really good one. Still got 2 more Wrestlers in the deck. And some more lands. I'm not winning this game ever if I just start trading on blocks. But if we just jam in with Cave Worm... Oh, I really don't know. Dead to removal. Kind of dead to removal no matter what, because this taps something when it attacks, so a single removal spell kills us even if we hold both blockers up. I guess they tap something and I Relic Roar in response to have a blocker out of nowhere. That's kind of the plan. And then just chump with the equipment. Because they'll just untap the Titan instead of tapping one of my cards here. Good grief. Yeah, I mean, the odds are really bad here, but we have to somehow try to find a cheesy victory. Yeah. Like, maybe they just won't block here, and then we'll, like, lethal next turn. With some cheese. That does not look to be the case. Yeah, I mean, when you consider the double Relics Roar as a way to potentially hit for 8 more damage out of nowhere this game, the line that makes it look like things may have been able to go differently is that turn where I crafted like a doofus. Because we would have hit for another 7 that turn if I had played a Wrestler and crafted the onboard Wrestler instead of something from Grave, so that I still had enough permanents to buff my card. And just having done an extra 7, this 8 damage out of nowhere might have won us the game. It's really bad not keeping track of the permanent count in Grave alongside the dork there. Still dead to removal here, obviously. It doesn't really matter. I don't even think I have any draws that'll kill them if we somehow survive at this point. Because you can't get through the Titan anyway, it untapped itself. Diadact Echo, draw another card. And a Shipwreck Sentry for value. Well, that was a very sad way to end off the Arena Open. Day 2, just losing the first round. Such a bummer when these are single elimination that we don't get any chance at redemption. You lose against one deck and it's over. Again, I feel like our blue-black deck versus their blue-black deck, it's not that terrible of a matchup. We just drew a little worse game 1. Don't think we could have played it out that much better to win that game. Game 2 was a really, really bad game for us, though. Obviously, there was a lot that was out of our control that went poorly, but there was a lot in our control here that we could have done much better and maybe still found that Relics Roar Cheese victory, which feels pretty rough. Always just like a lump in your stomach kind of thing when you look back on things and you're like, oh, that was such a bad play. The major one here being the crafting of the Idol of the Deep King with a card engrave made it so we couldn't actually attack into their dork, and then not having the counter spell up to counter the Death Touch lifelink trick there. And from that point on, I don't think there was much we could do. We tried to just keep up with their life gain so we could maybe cheese a victory off the Relics Roars, and I think that was probably the right choice. I think if we just insta-traded with Iceberg Titan, we're just completely out of threats, and then we're at their mercy watching them kill us with a Risen Reef, draw extra cards off the Shadow's Lair, just card advantage us out of the game. So I think once we got into that rough position of crafting with the Idol, I think it was reasonable to just keep sending the Cave Worm and trying to do something with the double roar, but we shouldn't have gotten into that position in the first place. We should have gotten the nice swing in there that initial turn and been enough ahead in life total to maybe actually get there off of the roars. Yeah. Big bummer. Big bummer for sure. A lot that was in our control that we did pretty poorly. On the plus side, even if we won this game, we would have had to move back to the blue-black deck since we were going to be on the draw again, and I think our blue-red deck plays a lot better on the play. So we probably would have moved back to the blue-black deck, and that matchup I think is almost exactly even, where it's really just who can draw the stronger late game early, or do they have the interaction for the Zoetic Glyphs in that early game. So bit of a coin flip matchup in game 1. Lost that coin flip. Game 2, played like a doofus in a game that was already losing to really keep ourselves out of contention in the Arena Open Day 2, draft number 2. Take another look at the deck here before we wrap up today's video, but I don't think I drafted particularly horribly. Obviously, I did bounce around with colors quite a bit, but having a solid lock-in on blue with the glyphs, getting a lot of late wrestlers and some sirens to go alongside them, I think the blue core of the deck was very reasonable. If I had locked in on red with the lattice early, I think that is probably the best deck we could have ended up in, going full onto that blue-red train, but I don't think we really passed much in black that we missed out on because we wheeled almost everything. We still got the Join the Dead, Bitter Triumph, Double Eclipse, Great Mistake, all that kind of stuff. I don't think there was really much in black that was particularly good that we ended up passing up. So the core, the main deck that we drafted today, about as good as it was going to end up being, kind of no matter what. So happy with that, but maybe we could have pushed more on the blue-red deck and got really aggressive trying to get Captain Storm to do something. Maybe she is that good that she is worth forcing some pretty mediocre cards into the deck just to have enough playables to get there. I don't know. I think the draft itself was not that bad. I think our deck could fight toe-to-toe with theirs, the blue-black versus blue-black, in games where we're on the draw or in the opening game. So yeah, I don't think we got super outclassed in card quality. I think we really just got outclassed in gameplay for sure. We're handing out free wins for sure. At 0-1 in today's draft, really disappointing one, but there is always next time, and next time is just around the corner on December 15th, 16th, somewhere around there, really, really soon. There's going to be a Khans of Tarkir Arena Open, which is very cool. I have not drafted a lot of Khans of Tarkir, but I've heard a lot of great things about it. It's a lot of people's one of people's favorite draft formats of all time. It's going to be really cool to go back to it, see what that format is like, play something a little different for next month's Arena Open. But as always, still really great sign. We at least made it here. We got to day 2 of the Arena Open in just 2 tries, and then we made it through draft number 1. Still a great win rate out of the event in general, getting 50-50 during the draft portion, winning 3 rounds. Actually, better than that. We only lost 2 rounds because you lose 2 and you're out. So we won 3 rounds and lost 1 day 2 draft 1, and then we lost 1 more round day 2 draft 2. So we went 3-2 in a really competitive draft event of the format, which is not bad at all. And of course, managing to get into day 2 in the first place, getting a 7-1 during sealed is pretty nice. So not the end of the world, still a respectable win rate in a competitive event like this. It's what I liked to play maybe at least one more game, get like really far up in gems. I don't need the money, I'm not that greedy. Don't expect to get a super awesome run with this just solid deck here, but at least going up in gems would have been pretty nice. But it is what it is. There's always next time. As for now, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.